Welcome to today's finance training. Today we're going to talk about revenue and expenditure transfers, what they are, how to request them, and how do they look once they're processed. So what is a revenue and expenditure transfer? These transfers are transactions that have officially posted to Banner that need to be moved to another area in Banner. It can be between different funds, orgs, accounts, or programs, or any combination of those. It's used to correct accounting posting errors, clear up P-card default accounts, correct budget or fund deficits, allocate expenses between your different accounts, orgs, and activity codes, as well as to share or allocate revenues or expenses between departments. It is not used for interdepartmental billings or for direct fund-to-fund transfers. Also, we request that when moving transactions out of your financial management area, typically an org change, that you provide necessary documentation and notify the admin in the department that the transaction is moving to, so they have correct information for auditing purposes. So how do we request a transfer? Well, first thing, we need to access Banner admin, and then we need to locate the transactions that need to be moved by searching in either FGITRND or drilling down within the account codes in FGI BDSR. And we'll show you how to do that here shortly. So let's hop over to Banner. To get to Banner, you get to your portal and then click on Banner Login and then Banner Admin, and it gets you to the welcome screen of Banner. And we're going to find these transactions. We're going to first look in the executive summary. The acronym for that form is FGI BDSR. And then once we're in the key block at the very top, we'll need to indicate what index or what FOAP that we're looking in. In this case, let's just go ahead and look at the mail index. You can see once we type in mail, it will populate the fund, org, and program. It's always a good habit to remove the program from your query to expand your search for transactions that may have program code errors. So from there, click on Go, and you can see we have all of our accounts, the title for those accounts, our budget, year-to-date activity, commitments, etc. For expenditure and revenue transfers, we can only move transactions beginning with a 5, which are revenues, and a 7, which are expenses. We cannot move any 6 accounts, which are labor accounts. To move payroll items, you need to do a payroll redistribution. In addition to that, we can only move year-to-date transactions that have officially posted to Banner using the revenue or expenditure item. So with that said, we need to find the transactions in which we're going to move. So let's say that we needed to move the software licenses. And you can see here we have a total for this particular account, but we don't yet have transactional detail. To drill down to that transactional detail, go to the year-to-date activity column, highlight that amount, and then go to related, and then transaction detail information. So once you go there, you'll see that now we have transactional detail of that particular account, and we can use this information to make the request. So let's hop over to FGITRND to show you how to do a broader search for expenses. So from there, we can go to FGITRND, which is named Detail Transaction Activity. And you need to input your fiscal year you're going to look in. In this case, we're going to also look in mail, and then delete the program, like I mentioned earlier, and then click on Go. This form also assumes that you want to further define your query. So all expense accounts start with a 7, and we can use wildcards. So all expenses begin with a 7, and if we put a % sign, it's going to pick up all transactions that begin with a 7. It's also important that in the field we put YTD to only pick up year-to-date transactions that fall within that column in FGI BDSR. So once we have that input, we can click on Go, and we're going to get our output. And then if we scroll down, you can also see we have a lot wider expense listing here. We're not necessarily just digging into one account. And you can also see we've got these same transactions for global parcel services in this report, as well as drilling down from BDSR. So once we've located these transactions, we need to get it in a format to paste into our request. So to do that, you can go up to Tools and click on Export, or you can just hit Shift F1. That will provide you with an Excel output that has all of the necessary information to paste into the request Google Doc. So let's say this is the transaction that we would like to move here. Okay, now we have all the information as to where the transaction currently is. What we need to do next is go ahead and locate the expenditure and revenue transfer request worksheet. And you can see here along the bottom we have tabs that correspond with dates. These dates are the dates in which we are going to complete the request and batch out and process. Once we process these requests, we'll list our doc number that we processed under up here in cell F3. This gives you some feedback that the request has been processed, and you should expect to see this journal number in the doc number in your area where we're moving transactions to and from. So to make a current request, we scroll all the way to the left to find the unlocked tab, this being the 9/11/19 tab, and then scroll down to the very bottom where we do not see previous requests. From there, we can get our export from banner that we had earlier, and we can just copy that either by hitting Control-C or just right-click and hit copy. And then over here to our Google Doc, and then we can right-click, hit Paste Special, and paste values. This prevents any weird formatting coming into the document. From there, columns A through O indicate where the transaction currently is. Then you need to list in columns P through V the location where it needs to move to. If you're only going to change accounts, you can just list the account and it will remain in the same fund, org, and program. If you have an index that you are listing, you're moving it to. You can list that and then omit the fund, org, and program, because the fund, org, and program is inherently within the index code. If you're only wanting to move a portion of those transactions, let's say if we only wanted to move $2,000 of that $5,000 transaction, we would list that amount here. After that, scroll there to the right in column X, list your name, and then the reason why we're doing it. And that's the request. Once we will hit this date, we typically batch out on Wednesdays, and that allows us a couple days to review and process the request and have it post by the following Monday. So after we've received that request and we've processed, we'll provide you with a journal doc number in which it was processed under. And when we move expenditures or revenue items, they don't necessarily disappear from the original location. There is just a negative transaction that is posted to the GL to offset that balance. I've got that shown here in this example, where you can see here this was a P-card expense for Sigma Tau Delta that was posted to the P-card clearing, and then an admin has requested to move that under to a different account. So this negative transaction here is the result of moving this transaction from 7361 to another location. This concludes the finance training on revenue and expenditure transfers. If you have any questions, you can certainly email us at controlleradmin, CTRL admin, @suu.edu. Thanks.